Welcome everyone to Rules Explained. In this episode, we will be going over Snit smashing and Snit's revenge. And I'm John Merritt.
I'm Rob Nothing.
Let's get started on this crazy adventure. When Rob brought this up, I had no idea what this was. Looking into it, this is absolutely hysterical. Snit smashing started in 1977, came out in a magazine called Dragon Magazine. And Rob, why don't you tell us about it?
Well, the Dragon Magazine, for those of you who are unaware, was a dedicated magazine to TSR titles, specifically mostly their role-playing titles, but a variety of other role-playing games to go ahead and expand with variants, articles, fiction, and so on and so forth. And occasionally, it would include a full game in it. And one of the first games that was produced in the Dragon Magazine was this thing called Snit Smashing. And the viewer, the listener, well, I'll go ahead and read the first line of this to give you an idea where this game was going. Now, remember, this is 1977, so we're barely getting role-playing games out there, and most of the people who play games are the ones who are playing these very complicated, very rules-intense war games from, like, World War II, like Stalingrad, Panzer Blitz, Blitzkrieg, and so on and so forth. And I guess I'll mention some SPI titles like Soldiers or Firefight or whatever the case may be. So listen to the or read it yourself, but listen to the first sentence or two of this game. A bolotomist waits by the side of the sea. A snit scurries out of the surf, squeaking a lusty go-go as it rushes towards a snaddergrab. I mean, come on, people. There's something about this game that desperately says WTF.
A desperate run.
Yes. A desperate run, the snit makes it and plants his snotch. Listen to this. A desperate run, the snit makes it and plants his snotch.
Pow!
More snits. New snits swarm from under the snaddergrab and plunge into the sea. And it goes on to suggest that the bolotomist who is watching all this decides he's bored and decides to go ahead with his other bolotomist friends, the bolotomi, decide to make a game out of smashing these little poor buggers as they're running back and forth. And hence the game Snit Smashing. Now, we're not going to go ahead and show anybody how to play this game because, quite frankly, it's got some interesting gameplay to it, but it's not going to be our main focus. The main focus is going to be the game that evolved out of the so-called fiction that was revolving around this Snit Smashing. So,
the virgin birth of Snits. This game is rated PG.
Probably should have been PG-13 if it were late enough.
The game begins on the assumption that the first Snit, the parent, has successfully made it to the snaddergrab and planted its snotch. Each time this game is hilarious.
And if you look at the components, I mean, I think you have the components on this PDF, but the components are
this record sheet.
But yeah, but it's classic. Yeah, they're your playing pieces, guys.
At the bottom.
Those are snits. Snits are basically two legs, two eyes, and the snotch. And don't ask me to describe the snotch because I don't think we can get away with it at this particular point in our podcasting.
This is a rated PG podcast.
Right, exactly.
That is hilarious. Let me switch over to... Okay, so this came out in 1977.
And then it was...
Smashing. So was this a hit? Did it take off? Yes. Were people playing it? People talking about it?
And the guy who designed it, called Tom Wham, he created some fiction around this. He created
name. That's his actual name. That isn't like a stage name or anything.
Yeah. Nope, Tom Wham. And he went ahead and decided, I'm going to go and create a comic strip based upon this concept of Snit Smashing. And if you want to pull that up real quick.
Yep. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this came out in a Dragon Magazine. It turned into a hit. Then he made a comic strip out of it.
You know, I think there might be some error in my timing. I think maybe there was actually a comic at the same time. This first comic right here came out at the same time because he was trying to explain the background to it. Because remember, this is a time period where you got a lot of historical gamers. And as goofy as this might sound, the people wanted to kind of know wait, where did this all happen? How did this all happen? What's the history in this universe that you've created where these things are trying to
We
smash?
need a background.
Right. So I think that may have been his motivation. I've never talked to the guy. I've seen him a couple of times at conventions. He still wanders the convention scene. But I would love
This
to talk to him about this. This would be a fascinating topic for a
this
conversation.
looks like it's from a newspaper.
It was in the Dragon magazine.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it the Dragon magazine? Okay, so
Yeah.
that's page 1. Here's page 2.
And it gives you the history of the god-like beings floating in space. Then they created the Volatimi, and then the snitches show up, and the snitch has this irresistible urge to go to the standard grab. And as you can see, it's not extraordinarily pornographic, but you might as well use your imagination to figure out what the heck is going on here. And then they run back to the sea, and then oh my gosh, and they have to run back to the standard grab for some sort of trout infested reason. And then the next panel, the next
What's a standard grab? There are 4 of them now. Run back to the sea.
yeah,
So
I
on our
just
third page of this now, there it is.
and then here's where you get the background saying, well, maybe we can smash them and go ahead and make a game out of it. So there's the Volatimi, which are also very interesting looking. And they're just getting a lot of fun because they're bored and they're just smashing snits.
So they're
That's
smashing the
the game.
snits on the beach.
Yep.
So now we have the conclusion, page 4. Here we go. So now on page 4, so
things
now they've
get
smashed them
interesting.
all. They're running away. All the gods are looking around the blue marble.
And things get interesting because then it occurs through divine intervention to the snits that instead of just being passive subject to the whim of the Belatami, they can go ahead and crawl into the Belatami to try to kill it. And that evolved into the game called Snit's Revenge, appropriately.
So now it's Snit's Revenge, which was the sequel. So what year did the Revenge come out?
I believe it was the same year, 77. I mean, this was rapid. I don't know, again, if Tom had intended on doing this, but there was a definite interest in the whole Snit's universe and the whole Snit concept and the whole Snit and caboodle.
Wow. So the Snits now are getting their revenge. How are they getting their revenge? How is this game played?
Well, as you can see, if you're watching the video of this, John has the background of the board. And what the Snits are doing is they are going into the Belatimus to go ahead and try to kill it from the inside. So what you have here is some sort of Fantastic Voyage-esque, attempt to go ahead and destroy the living
There it is.
creature coming in. Yeah, there's the board close up and personal, and I love this. We actually have the anatomy of the Belatimus.
Yeah, so
And
it's on 2 pages.
Yes, the board was about 11 by 17, give or take. And we have all sorts of very interesting names for the organs of the Belatimus. For example, if you want to go ahead and hover over, go ahead there. We have a familiar atrium, we got that. But then there's the Divicrius, the glut, the antephelum, the matorne. I mean, the agulator. I mean, it's just.
I hate it when the agulator goes bad.
It is fascinating. And my favorite, if you want to scroll back up to the first half there, the other half, I mean, let's go ahead and everybody remember that these creatures have a prolabacinator.
Yes.
There you go.
Everybody needs one of those.
Exactly. So,
And,
and then the organs, there are some organs that have specific game functions, which we'll go over in our next episode. And there are organs that you are trying to go ahead, as the Snit player, you're trying to destroy organs to send the Belatimus into system shock, and it passes away. It dies. As the Belatimus, you're trying to activate your immune system essentially to go ahead and fight off this infection of Snits, or you're trying to activate your healing abilities to heal organs that have been damaged.
So this kind of turns into a game of Risk almost.
Yes.
So I've got the organs, which are each of these major areas,
Yep.
and then the snits come in and they try and destroy these organs.
Yep.
So how does the creature fight back?
Through creation of either antibodies, if you wish to phrase it that way, and the actual technical name is Runtigatums.
We had to practice that word.
We practiced quite a bit, and I'm actually surprised we got it in one take. Which is going to be funny because I hope somebody actually finds out that we mispronounced it and then argues with us, because that would be awesome. But anyway, those are produced by Makums, or Makums, if you wish, in the primary, secondary, and tertiary compositors.
That's these three organs over here.
Yep, those are going to make Makums, and the Makums can go ahead and be turned into either the Retigatums and the Lepotum. By the way, is everybody taking notes now?
Yeah.
So you're going to turn them into Retigatums, which are then going to be sent out to go ahead and try to destroy the snits. Or you can go ahead and generate new organs, snorgs, which will go ahead and heal your organs if they are damaged and destroyed by the snits.
Right, the snorgs are in charge of taking care of the organs.
Yes.
So, prepare for play. So, I'm sorry. So that's, see, easy.
Yeah, easy. That's all you guys need to know.
Yeah. So, prepare for play. So, how do we set the game up?
Well,
first, where can I get this game?
You cannot.
You cannot.
This game is no longer available. You might be able to find a PDF copy of it pirated away somewhere. I have not found. I mean, I own the game and several copies of it when it was first produced by TSR. Then it was picked up by Steve Jackson Games, who picked up a few of Tom Lamb's products and re-released them. But he has not put the game out either in a very long time, so it's a pretty rare game to find. If you can find the Dragon Magazine archive, you will be able to find this game as a PDF, but you'd have to probably buy it on eBay. But it's actually, the Dragon Magazine archive now is more expensive than trying to probably get a pretty playable copy of the game itself on eBay.
Yeah, on eBay, it does look like he came out with an actual box set.
Yep.
Snit's Revenge Rare Vintage Board 1978 second edition, TSR edition, 99% complete, $75.
Yeah, depending on, I think that's a bit overpriced. I picked up my copies for about $20 to $30, and yeah, most of them are missing a counter or two, but it's very easy to reproduce them. The artwork is both minimalist as well as, ingenious and in my opinion, fantastic in its simplicity. But anyway, I digress.
I mean, he definitely created an alien everything.
Yeah. And you feel sympathy for both the Snits and the Bellotimus, because neither one of these look very violent, unless, of course, you see the cover of the Snit's Revenge box, which shows a Snit with a sword strapped to its. Yeah. All right. So anyway,
I love it.
So yeah, the game is available if you want to find it, but it's very worth it, because if you did find a PDF of it, you could easily print this thing off at a Office Max or your favorite local store for probably no more than $5-10 at most for everything.
So here's the game board. So yeah, I found the poster of the actual game board. So that's what the game board looks like. This blob of a creature with a humongous nose and all of its organs showing.
Yep. And the setup in some ways works like a Settlers of Catan game, because when you set up, first you got to go ahead and put your snorgs out there. Every organ has a snorg. But then underneath 4 of the snorgs, you have splops and the Spark of Life.
The Spark of Life is important.
Are basically booby traps that if they go off, they go ahead and kill the snit that was trying to go ahead and destroy the Snorg. But if the Snit finds the Snorg that actually is the spark of life, the Bolotomus dies immediately and the Snit wins the game. Now, where is the spark of life? Well, you place that as the Bolotomus player anywhere you want, hidden in any one of the organs that you wish. Now, there's all sorts of strategies you can go ahead and try. The most common one is probably to put it in the forbosinator, because it's the hardest one to get to in theory. But suffice to say, there's no guarantee that you're going to go ahead and win in that regards. But it's just got some very interesting gameplay to it, because you have to set it up using the Snorgs, and you only start with one Runtigitum, and you have to produce more very quickly before you get overrun by the Snits. The Snits start, by the way, off board. They don't get to go in. They can enter through the glut.
The bottom here.
Yep, which I would assume is what it eats with. Hence, glut, I'm going to just assume. You could also go ahead and enter through the antiphyllum, which would be rude. Or you could go ahead and enter through the pleotis, which I'm not exactly sure what its actual function is. It might be a breathing organ, I'm going to guess.
I was going to say a lung, maybe?
Yeah. But that would go ahead and ask yourself, well, I guess the prolobosinator is probably not really a nose per se, but a manipulative organ of some sort.
Could be. I have no idea.
That's what makes this game fun, is that you try to figure out what the heck this thing does and how it lives.
No kidding. Why is there a basilisk in the upper right corner of this game board?
Well, that is a question another one that I would ask Tom Wham, and there's probably something in the internet world that explains this, but I believe it is just kind of like a code saying, here is the first version, because there's Basilisk 1, then there's Basilisk 2, and then there's Basilisk 3, and I think it corresponds to the version of the print for the game itself.
Gotcha.
That is my guess. I hope somebody goes ahead and tells me I'm wrong, because it'll prove that people are listening to us with zeal and excitement.
We love emails. So did we want to get into, so how do we set the game up then? So prepare for play.
I think, when you open up the box, you're going to see a whole bunch of round counters representing the Snits, and you're going to see the Snorgs, you're going to see the Macum, you're going to see the Rutigitums, you're going to see the Spark of Life, and the Spops, and so on and so forth. So what you got to do is, the first thing you have to do is you have to go ahead and set up the Snorgs in every organ, and that's not random. They have to go to certain organs, because that's your way of keeping track of which organs have been destroyed by a Snit. You remove a Snorg. Okay? You do get to randomly and hidden place the Splops and the Spark of Life for obvious reasons. That is the Stratego version of this game. Because if you go ahead and run to a Splop, it's kind of like a bomb in Stratego. You're going to die. It
explodes. Boom.
Right.
So there's 4 of them. You turn them upside down. You put them and then you put them in the organs.
Yes.
So the other player knows there's something there, but he just doesn't quite know what it is.
Right. And the only restriction is you can't put it into one of the organs, but we'll talk about that later on. That's a complication we don't have to deal with right now.
All right.
The supply of Rutigitums and Snorgs is basically, and Macums are basically unlimited for the Bolotomus. The supply, the amount of Snits is limited. So you're going to roll, depending on the game version you play, you either roll to determine how many Snits you get, or if you have the updated Steve Jackson version, you get a fixed number, which I think is 15. And that's it. You lose all those, and you lose the game. So the Snit player has to be careful. Yes. He has to move quickly. He has to move, or she has to move rapidly. She has to move as decisively as possible, because as you and I know, we played a couple of times on this, if you kind of loiter around with the Snits, eventually the Bolotomus will produce enough Rutigitums, and before you realize it, you're being overwhelmed before you've had a chance to do any serious damage to the internal organs.
Yeah, I really caught myself after we got done playing, wanting to play again, because I went, there's different ways of playing this game and different strategies you could use, and I wanted to really explore them and try them out and see what would work and what didn't work. This game is very deceiving.
Yes.
It's very addicting.
And I think you just hit it on the head. There's so many different variations that you could try as far as strategies, especially if you kept reversing the roles. The game is there's a slight advantage to the Bolotomist player, but I think again, if you have a very aggressive player of the Snitch, that could turn the tables very quickly. But again, there's a little bit of resource management here for the Bolotomist, which is interesting because this is kind of before a lot of those resource management games even became, there weren't even twinkles in people's eyes. I mean,
Right.
yeah, there were games with reinforcements, and I get that, but the whole idea about resource management, because again, you can with the Makems, you can either create, repair organs, repair snorgs, or you can repair or create more Rutiganums, and that's essentially resource management, a very primitive form of resource management. But
It
then
is.
again, we're dealing with primitive organisms here, aren't we?
Well, this is a game that was printed in a Dragon magazine on a piece of paper with
Right.
basically cutouts, which is
Yep.
a brilliant idea. I mean, this guy really put out a fantastic game. I totally underestimated this game.
Considering the current state of the game market, which is very strong and positive, I don't see why this game is not a box game with plastic miniatures in it. I really don't see why it's not out there right now. This can definitely be a very popular game very quickly. There's repeated gameplay. You could even go ahead and throw in some modern variations, and maybe even some card play to go ahead and give your Snit some additional powers. Which, by the way,
A sword.
there, yeah, well, no, there are rules in the original Snits games about your Snits getting experience and becoming better at killing and
It
better
level
at
up.
surviving. Exactly, your Snits can actually level up.
Cracks me
So
up.
yeah, there's so much you could do to go ahead and make this into a modern classic. I don't know why anybody isn't. And if I have $1 million, I would try to find Tom Webb and say, "Let's go for it, dude."
Yeah, I mean, we are in a golden age of board games right now. I mean, it is
Yeah.
making, or it is. I mean, it's not making a comeback. I mean, it's here.
Yep.
Thanks to things, thanks to platforms out there like Kickstarter, where people say, "I've got this idea and let's put it out there," and they get funding for it, and then they're able to make these games, and they got these brilliant ideas. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there right now. Where
I
back in
completely agree.
1977, you had Dragon magazine. You know, how else could you get your idea across?
It was much more difficult back then, but somehow Tom got his idea out there, and there it is.
Got it in Dragon magazine, which is actually a pretty big deal.
Yes, and Dragon Magazine became the flagship magazine for just gaming in general for a long time,
Long time.
and I
Yeah.
believe it's only produced digitally now.
Is it still? Who owns it? I mean, is that
Well, I think
Wizards of the Coast? Do they still own it?
Wizards owns it, and Hasbro owns Wizards, if I remember the hierarchy properly.
Right, because a Dragon magazine was published by TSR, and
Yes,
then
TSR went bankrupt. Oh my gosh, you're going to force me to remember a date here. I want to say it was late 90s. Somebody might
was
want
it, was
to
it?
help me out on it. And then Wizards bought them out. And in fact, I remember filling out this survey right after the buyout. And Wizards was very concerned about the fans and how they would feel about the whole process. And I remember them asking, "Is the name TSR important still?" And I said, "Oh, hell yeah! You
Uh
can't
huh.
just go and get rid of TSR.
That's a
They're
classic.
a legacy game company for crying out loud."
Uh
But
huh.
apparently, either A, there was not enough people like me who fill out the survey, or B, Wizards ignored the survey and they just got rid of the TSR brand completely and just took all the titles, and now they sell them on RPG Now and so on and so forth. But
I kind of thought the best thing that kind of happened to TSR, not the fact that they went bankrupt, but the fact that they sold it to Wizards of the Coast. It actually took Dungeons and Dragons and they did stuff with it. I just felt like the game Dungeons and Dragons sat in limbo for so long where they didn't do anything with it.
you and I could probably devote an entire episode to that concept, because I would like to disagree with you, and I think that would make
Oh,
a
please
great
do.
episode. I think that would make a great episode. You and I both presenting our cases as far as the pros and cons to that, because yeah, there's a lot of passion around that. TSR made a slight comeback. I think they still exist. There are a couple of the old guard from TSR resurrected, I should say. They resurrected the TSR name, and they put out a few modules, and then they re-released Top Secret with
gosh.
and yeah, Top Secret is
wow.
back. Yeah. Oh my gosh, and they did a pretty good job. There was a couple things I wish they would have done in addition to the rules that they had produced, but it's a sleek product. It has a little bit of a small following, but yeah, TSR it did kind of resurrect, and then Goodman Games got. I'm going to digress completely here, but Goodman Games got the Metamorphosis Alpha license, and so does I want to say Troll Lord. Troll Lord has the license for Metamorphosis Alpha.
Oh my gosh! So TSR really owned a lot more than just Dungeons and Dragons, because that's all I ever really knew them for was TSR made Dungeons and Dragons, and that was it.
They were a fantastic company. They were innovative. They took chances. It did hurt them in the long run, obviously, with their bankruptcies. But they really tried to go ahead and tried to stretch the industry as far as they possibly could. I mean, they went into toys. They went into miniatures. They were even in collaboration with Hollywood, creating the D&D cartoon, and eventually they wanted to create D&D movies. But that didn't happen until the 21st century, for many years after TSR collapsed.
I will admit, I did like the cartoon.
Oh, the cartoon is great.
I love the cartoon.
that was great. I mean, it was hokey, but then again,
it was hokey. It was great.
And you have to love 80s cartoons. We can talk about that too at some point. But TSR really tried to push it, and they came up with great concepts. I mean, Spelljammer,
gosh.
Space, but not science fiction. It was just fantasy space adventure.
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, Dark Sun. They had games like Awful Green Things from Outer Space, which is another Tom Wham. They just were trying all sorts. They had mini games which were very interesting, including one mini game which was basically you just trying to get a freighter through an iceberg, field on the open ocean. It was just innovative ideas that were interesting as well as provocative. And I wish we'd have game companies like that again. We do. I guess, okay, I'm a grognard. Okay, I'll say it. I complain about everything. But I don't know. Okay, yeah, I'm old. I'm just going to stop.
But to get back to our Snits. So it came out in 1977. Snit's Revenge came out probably around the same year.
Yep.
A phenomenon. It even is. Even today the game holds up because we did play it. Next week we will actually play the game, go into the rules, show you guys, because it's so hard to talk about this because these words are just so bizarre and foreign and alien. And this is an alien world he put us in, where I can't reference anything to anything. I can't say this is its gut, or it's so foreign that you actually have to see it. So next week, we are going to actually go into the rules. We're going to dive into it. We're actually going to play the game. So I will definitely put a link to the YouTube video in the show notes. So if you're listening to the audio podcast, you can get a link to the video and watch it there. It is a really fun game. Rob, is there anything else?
No, just make sure you know where your standard grab is and protect your snot.
Guys, would like to thank Ethan Peebles for the music. He does a great job with it. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on YouTube, Rules Explained. We have a subreddit, Rules Explained. If you have any questions or concerns, or actually any comments, you can email us at rulesexplained@gmail.com. I am John Merritt.
I'm Rob Nothing.
Guys, thank you for listening.
Adios.